Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain sweary words and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage Tims, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or check us out on Facebook and join our group at Beyond the Waves. Hail, hail, and keep the faith. All right, welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. Thank you for joining us, as always. We are a post-game live call-in show that's really here for you to vent your frustrations, express your enthusiasm, go off your head, as we certainly do, and just share in the passion for Celtic Football Club, which today it seemed as though some of the players were lacking. We'll just leave it at that. 1-1, very difficult to watch away to Ross County. Lots of excuses, lots of reasons for the performance being the way it was. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I mean, there were just numerous examples that had nothing to do with the quality of the pitch or how hard the wind was blowing or how many players were off in Dubai relaxing on their holidays after playing so much football. I thought the managing was confusing and not even close to coherent at times, and the product was a completely disjointed performance. I mean, it transcends the result. 1-1. I think we were probably, we can talk about the disallowed goal. It certainly was a goal. Tony Watt was miles onside, but what we saw in the second half was nothing short of atrocious in terms of what we were watching, in terms of the quality of the football. And it's not as if this is something new. This is something that we've been watching week after week. And it just doesn't seem to have any sort of urgency injected into it. There's just far too many passengers. The starting 11 and the selections for that were mind-boggling at best. I mean, F.A. Ambrose, if we're going to be in a position where we're going to rest players who are tired at this point, why is F.A. Ambrose playing in the middle of the park? Why is he in the center of the midfield? It seems as though since he's come back from the African Cup of Nations, he's been either off the boil, or maybe trying to get his energy back, or just lost his confidence. Whatever the case is, if anybody needs a rest, it's him. And in terms of the context of having a a product on the pitch that's going to be fun to watch, that's going to generate results, I'm not sure what he contributes to it. I mean, if you're going to have Joe Ledley in the center of the park who's going to have to babysit your defensive midfielder, then said defensive midfielder should not be on the park. Full stop. I'm not sure what we're learning by having F.A. Ambrose play central midfield, play more of a holding midfield role. I can understand Gershon coming in. You know, here's a player that we brought in the January window. We're trying to evaluate him. You know, and Lenny likes these players that can play a couple of different positions. Can step in at left back, maybe play a little center half. I'm not sure that he's necessarily a central midfielder in the mold of Mulgrew, if you want to say that Mulgrew is a central midfielder or a midfielder at all. But nonetheless, it's an opportunity for us to find out what we have with Gershon. We haven't seen much of him. He's either been injured or when we have seen him, he's really been underwhelming. So this was an opportunity for him to step in and stake his claim, you know, to having a more permanent role at Celtic, for us to not send him back to Standard Liège. He looks the part, but I'm not sure I saw enough out of him today, combined with his previous performances, for me to say we should keep him. You know, I was hoping for more than that. I was hoping that a player like that would be inspired. But it seemed as though he spent the majority of his day getting yelled at by Kelvin Wilson. Really, there's nobody that you can give pass marks to from the performance today, other than maybe Stokes for his goal. And maybe Tony Watt, although, you know, there were moments where it looked like he had lapses of concentration as well as interest. Chris Commons, for me, it looked like, you know, he wanted to be in Dubai with his buddy Gary Hooper. I mean, just time after time, you know, Dylan McGeoch would get the run of play. Loads of space out in front of him, and nobody is making a run. Everybody's just sort of jogging behind them. And Chris Commons finally turns up and loses the ball. That was really the statement of the entire game. Very difficult to watch. We're now joined, as we always are, from Perth Amboy, New Jersey. He's finished his smoke, I think. It is the Rev. Hail, Rev.
Hail, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir. Did you manage to wake up at the ungodly crack of dawn to watch this performance this morning?
Yeah. You know, I was a couple minutes late, and I didn't really, you know, have the attention span to pay attention. Unfortunately, it didn't, you know, grasp my my attention and keep me, you know, enthralled. So I kind of dozed off here and there watching, and you know, it seems like I did the same thing that the players did. So you know, what's to be expected.
Well, and that brings me to an interesting question. I've raised this on Twitter this morning. I mean, I'm almost just apathetic about it, and it really mirrors the players. So I can't feel guilty with it whatsoever. But you know, the question being, we've heard from Neil Lennon over the past several weeks, essentially begging the support to come out and support the team, you know, over the next several weeks, on the tail end of the team winning the league once again. But it's clear that it's not just the players who have just chucked it. I mean, there was absolutely no semblance of any sort of tactical breakdown today. The lineup had no semblance of synergy or thought into it. I mean, you know, it makes absolutely zero sense, the formation that was lined up, and then the adjustments. I mean, there really were no adjustments throughout the entire 90 minutes, in spite of the fact that it was obvious that it wasn't working. So, you know, my issue is, you know, it's more than disingenuous to come out and beg the support to come out and continue to support the team, and then after the game basically say that, you know, the results at this point don't mean anything. Well, your thoughts there?
No, you're totally right. You know, I mean, if, you know, not just for myself watching at home, but I mean, you know, same for people going, you know, how can you, you know, expect someone to, especially, you know, for all these early games, you know, after the split, you know, they're all, you know, 12 o'clock, 12:30, 12:45 kickoffs, you know, how you can expect to keep people, you know, up and excited and, you know, wanting to go to all the games, except for maybe St. Johnston, when we, actually lift the trophy, all the other games other than that, how you can expect people to really be excited for it when, it doesn't seem like the team is, and, to a certain extent, the manager itself.
I mean, there were countless situations. We heard from Anthony Stokes on Twitter after the game saying that it was not easy playing in the conditions. Obviously, it was clear the state of the pitch was subpar, to put it mildly. I mean, it's a disgrace, but it's always been that way. Every time we've gone to Dingwall, the pitch has been bad. So why not be prepared for it? Why not, have a game plan, have some tactics that are going to address that? Then it was brought up that the wind played a factor. Well, I'm confused as to when all of a sudden we've become Stoke and we're relying on long balls to target men. That's antithetical to how we are supposed to play. Now, those two issues have absolutely zero to do with any time we had any sort of attacking flair. Any time we were in their final third, it was the three attacking players, and then there was absolutely nobody from the midfield running to follow up. So you had square balls coming through, where if Stokes or Watt weren't on the end of them, which very commonly they weren't, very frequently they weren't, and there's a clearance, and there's absolutely no sign of anybody. That's where Joe Ledley needs to make a run for a second ball. And I mean, that's just down to lack of effort. I'm sorry. Half the team is back in their own half. They haven't even crossed the halfway line yet. So you have three players in the box. Everybody else is on the other side of the halfway line jogging. That's a lack of effort.
You're totally right. Ledley's still, in his mind, probably still in Dubai himself. The other players are, I don't know what, it was good to see some of the reserves and, the younger kids get a little bit of a run out, Gershon and McGeoch and stuff. But, you like we've said in the past, this is what we want. These are the players we want to bring in because they're hungry and, they want to show what they can do and, give themselves a gold star to be like, this is why I should play. And it's like you had your opportunity today and you squandered it and wasted it.
Yeah, no question about it. Zaluska, obviously for my money, didn't really put a foot wrong. Didn't have much to do, to be honest. But didn't have any huge lapses. Izagiri got caught out defensively a couple of times, but I have a hard time giving him any sort of stick, considering his attitude through the tail end of this season. It's clear that he understands that he's still coming back from this injury. He's still trying to regain his form, and he's not happy with the level that he's been at, and he wants to continue playing. And for that, I wish we had 11 players that felt the exact same way, that didn't want time off, that didn't want to go to Dubai. And his service has improved dramatically. That's always been the knock on him, and that's certainly been much, much better. Lustig was just okay for me. As I mentioned, Joe Ledley did not really do anything to state the case for him carrying the armband when in Scott Brown's absence. I mean, Scott Brown's obviously the captain, but it seems as though there's this merry-go-round of players who get the armband in Scott Brown's absence. And I've been one of the voices leading the charge and trying to state that Joe Ledley should get that. I don't think he did that case much good today at all. Chris Commons, it looks like, just didn't want to be there, to be honest. Many of the runs that he made, I mean, I can count them on one hand. I'm at a loss. I really am. I mean, Anthony Stokes, looked lively, but, when you have any sort of service that's coming forward, bouncing right off of them, losing possession, everything getting broken down as soon as we cross the halfway line, and F. Ambrose was just absolutely atrocious today. I think it goes further than just him not being a midfielder, which I would say he probably isn't. That's certainly not his strongest position. But this idea from the management, Rev, playing players constantly out of position. I mean, we've seen it, across the board with Charlie Mulgrew. Where myself and others have argued that his one and only really solid position is at center half. I mean, he might be halfway decent cover at left back, but why not play the kids? This is what is mind-blowing for me. What did we learn from having F. Ambrose in the middle of the park? Why not bring on Rogic and let him start again?
Yep.
As he did last week. Why not bring in Atajic? Why is Commons playing? Why?
No, you're right. I mean, more so to playing Ambrose and stuff. I mean, it's good to know, and if you want to consider these games, throwaway games, although I don't mean it in such a literal sense, but games where you can tinker, you can experiment. I think this was about the time 2 years ago or last year, whatever, when Lenny started throwing out the 3-5-2. This is the time when you can do that. This is the time where you can kind of experiment and test and see, okay, can Ambrose do some defensive midfield? Can this player go here, whatever? And I'm okay with that if you didn't know that, the answer to that question before and you learn from it. So if he was horrible today, then it's okay, he doesn't play here again. Or, if you didn't know that
system. Or in this formation, or in that sort of tactical, setup, or going up against this sort of opponent. But there's a huge difference between going out and experimenting, like you're talking about. And I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, we've seen the outline sort of it in the end of previous seasons, experimenting with the 3-5-2 with different formations. We talked about at the end of last season that being paramount in our qualifying run for European football, which obviously transcended and transformed into the miraculous and fantastic Champions League run that we had. But there's a huge difference between experimentation and trying to go to school on certain things and merely chucking it and trying to save players. And I think that's really where we are at this point. The comments from Neil Lennon after the game today was more along the lines of, we're saving players for the cup final. These results don't mean so much. Well, I'm sorry, for the person who paid maybe 40 or 50 quid to take the train up to Dingwall and then has to pay another 30 quid for the ticket, and was told that, it's just an integral part, for them to continue to come out and support the club. And then, you throw out things like that. I mean, it's just why even bother? We didn't gain anything from today other than, it seems as though there weren't any players injured. There wasn't any entertainment, through it. I mean, there's just a sort of compounding effect of cynicism from much of the support, where it's like, why are we even bothering watching this?
No, that's the good point, because you try to find the happy medium between doing new different things with the team, but also honoring the fans who paid the money to come see them. Because I've been to games where it's obvious that the team, and there's other sports too, where it's the team's like, the season's over, either in, the postseason's about to start and we want to save players or whatever the case may be. And it's like, they just don't care, and the game doesn't mean anything. So, it sucks for the fans who pay to go. So you have to try to find a happy medium. But I think the happy medium in that, and, maybe I'm a little biased because this is what we're kind of championing for, is having the youngsters come out. Imagine, today you had Tom Rogic playing, central attacking midfielder, and he might not be the greatest, and it's, let's call it not really an experiment, but you know what I mean? It's just, trying things out, and he had a great game, his first great game in hoops. And then for the fans, or at least he scored like a goal or something like that, and then he later on becomes a good player and a fan favorite. The fans who went today can say, I was at at the game where he scored his first goal or something like that.
Well, it's like that would be like the fans that turned up at Fir Park last season for Tony Watt's debut where he scored a brace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Dylan McGeoch's, friggin' 80, kilometer run that he had to score the goal. So it's like
80-kilometer. Wow.
Yeah. he ran.
He ran all the way from Edinburgh.
You know what I mean? So like, there's you can bounce it out like that, and like I said, maybe I'm biased because that's what I want to happen, so I'm kind of making an excuse for that to happen. But it just makes so much sense to me.
Well, and in addition to that, make some adjustments. If you're going to set out the youngsters and experiment with different formations, when it's not work, I understand he's in the stands, and he needs he needs to jetpack himself out of the stadium, otherwise he's going to be in violation of his touchline ban or whatever the hell it is.
Right.
But there's ways that he can communicate with Johan. Or is Johan that ill-equipped where he can't make adjustments? And if that's the case, then we need to replace Alan Thompson. Then not having an Alan Thompson and not having replaced him is taking its toll. If Johan Mjällby is that sort of tactically inept where he can't make those adjustments, but sitting there for 80 minutes with the same formation, doing the same exact thing, with the same players, no substitutes, and then we get to the substitutes. Patty McCourt comes on a bumpy pitch. What the hell do you expect Patty McCourt to do with 7 minutes on a bumpy pitch when it's windy? Right. Patty, strip down, go out there and win the game for us. Oh, are you kidding me? Why? Why would you do that? You have a Tadic on the bench who scores goals for fun in these bounce games. Get him a run out. We haven't seen him play with the first team. And if he's not going to play in a game like today, when is he going to play? Mm-hmm. Well, and then Kyle, you bring in Kyle for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Why? What's the point of doing that? You have all sorts of kids to choose from that could get a run out. And why did you bring the kids to the Highlands? To take them for a ride? Come on, kids, we're going to go for a ride.
Maybe, they needed a nap, and if they're like me as a kid, once you put them in the car seat and go for a ride, they pass right out. I don't know. Yeah, I was just thinking about that right as you were saying that, all the other suspensions that Lenny had to deal with. Alan Thompson was, pretty decent in his absence, in Lenny's absence.
And we haven't done anything to replace him. We don't have sort of a first-team coach. When you see Johan out there and there's no adjustments really tactically being made, you have to wonder.
What's Danny McGrain? He's reserve team coach?
I think his specialty has really been to work with the defenders. Rightfully so. I mean, he was legendary. He doesn't have
like a title in that regard.
He wasn't a replacement for Alan Thompson. I mean, we'll put it that way. He's not going to take up a role, that would be commensurate with what Alan Thompson did. More of the sort of ear for Lenny to bounce things off of and give, sort of tactical advice. I think that you can't sort of undervalue what Alan Thompson brought. And there's a lot of sort of ambiguity about how he left the club and why and whatever. Right. That's beside the point. The point is what he brought to the team on the touchline. It hasn't been replaced. And I think we're seeing the effect of it. What we've seen in many of these performances is a stunning lack of adaptation. When things sort of go pear-shaped or, when we're just sort of running ourselves into the wall and just getting frustrated, it seems as though we're just a bit stubborn. We don't make the adjustments. I mean, it seemed as though we were maybe a 4-3-1-2 with Commons playing sort of a roaming role, and he was just disinterested. There was absolutely zero link-up. Why is Dylan McGeoch playing central midfield? I mean, throughout the first half, I tweeted this. There was nothing going. The right-hand side of the pitch, in the first half, so our right-hand side had the better surface, if you will, the better patch of grass. Yet there was no Celtic player going down there other than Lustig. And Lustig couldn't be bothered to get his ass across the halfway line. So you have acres of space down that right-hand flank, and everything from our end needs to go up the left, and the pitch is awful there. In addition to, Chris Commons was more interested in trying to draw a penalty or a foul than turning a defender. So, and I mean, it's just frustrating to see, Dylan McGeoch, yes, he's not blessed with the blinding pace that you'd hope to have from a winger such as James Forrest. And there were several tweets that came out after the game talking about James Forrest being our only winger is a huge problem, and I would absolutely 100% agree with that. Mm-hmm. We definitely need to address that issue in the close of season, in the transfer window. We need to bring in a winger. We're rumored to be bringing in Tonev, he's very highly rated winger out of Poland, I believe. Who?
That kid. Okay.
Yeah, he's being looked at by several of the Italian clubs. One of them being Lazio, but he's mentioned that if he had his druthers, he'd come to Celtic. Playing
I would too over Lazio.
Seems reasonable. So, the whole waiting for 60 minutes to go by before making a substitution, why would you stick with that at this point? I mean, if results don't matter, then why wouldn't you experiment? Why wouldn't you bring in James Keatings? Why wouldn't you bring in this kid McGregor? Find out what we have there. Find out how he responds. We were open to that in the early going, in the beginning of the season. Remember the Inverness Cali game back in August where we were bringing in kids?
Right.
We brought in Chalmers. Didn't have
a bunch of kids. Jackson Irving.
Yeah.
Irvine.
So I'm confused. Well, I'm apparently confused because I just hung up on the Rev. Now joining us is a caller that I've missed. He's been a frequent caller in the past, but we haven't heard from him in a little while. But I'm so glad to be joined now by the great Tony Cassidy. Tony, hello, thanks for calling in.
Hey, Graham, that's a fantastic introduction. Very kind. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Is MD else on? Is it just yourself?
I think I just got the Rev back.
Yeah, you put me on hold there.
As I tend to do. Listen, I took 2 weeks off. I'm a bit rusty. Tony, thanks for calling. I'm off on a bit of a rant, but you have a good perspective for these types of things. You tend to put things right. What were your thoughts on the game today?
Well, just like any game when we draw or get beat, we were disappointed with the result, I just wanted to see some of the young boys get a game, really. There's a few things about it. First of all, for the fans, it's miles away, It's a long trip, early morning, all that stuff. It's a few bob to get in, it's not cheap. And the actual location, I've been up there twice this season, so the viewing point, you're away at one end of the ground, so you don't really see what's going on if there's action up the other end so much, I feel for the fans in that respect. We were winning when the game 1-0. The last match we played them, we were winning the game 2-0,
Yeah.
And we still get beat 3-2, but this time we managed to hold on for the draw, which is fantastic. Well, not fantastic, which is better than get beat, I suppose. But just bring in Biram Kyle on with a minute to go or something. Bring in Paddy on with 15 minutes to go. Fair play to these two guys. They're doing the best they can in that. But at this stage of the season, the league's in the bag. I'm looking to see some. Me, but I'm looking to see the younger guys coming in. So I don't know what you think yourself.
Yeah, I want to get your perspective here because I know that you have a good handle on the reserves and some of these younger guys coming through the development team and the academy. Atajic is, first off, correct my pronunciation if it's off. Is it Atajic?
Yeah, I've not actually asked Bruden about this. I've never asked him, Bruden, how do you pronounce your name, man? But I've been to Croatia, sort of the Slavic countries, whatever, so I'm kind of guessing that it's Atajic. The J is like a Y, and the C will be like a ch, so Atajic.
Okay.
I don't know, it could be Atajic, or it could be Atajic.
We'll have to...
but I'm going for Atajic. I need to ask Bruden.
We'll have to get that straightened out eventually. But tell us, because he seems to be getting a lot of praise and attention, and people are clamoring for him to get a run out. Tell us a little bit about sort of his style of play. What sort of striker is he, and how can you imagine him fitting into the starting 11?
Well, he classes himself as being an attacking midfield type of striker. He gets a few goals at youth level. I don't know if it's more difficult, obviously, at senior level. He takes nice free kicks. He's quite a technical player. Obviously, most people have seen the volley against Hearts. That's he's most famous for. He's not a big bruiser of a guy, so if somebody goes in hard on him, I'm sure Tony is probably a bit bigger than him,
Mm-hmm.
So he'd probably hold a player off maybe a wee bit more, but Bruden's maybe slightly more clever up top, and he'll be able to make sure he's got that half yard, and certainly when he gets the ball in the final third, he'll dash with it, and he'll pick up the pace at the right moment. It's all about timing in terms of Bruden's case,
Mm-hmm.
He's predominantly right-footed, but he'll have a go on his left as well. And he's got a reasonable header. We saw the header at Hampden the other night, so that's not bad. So we'll see. I mean, I know Callum McGregor was also on the bench there. So Callum's he was out injured for a long time, so he's just been back up to speed now the last couple of months. And again, I would have liked to have seen Callum coming into the game. I mean, it's the surface is quite bobbly. Quite rough up there, and it's a rough and tumble match. Mostly young players come in, they play their first games at Celtic Park, and then they get a run elsewhere. But I mean, we don't have many games left. We should have won the league by the 1st of April.
Agreed.
I don't know what's the story. I mean, what's happening? Why do we not get it in the bag a lot earlier? I heard on Wednesday that Rami Gershon. I mean, I don't know what's happened. I was watching Celtic TV, and Joe Ledley was being interviewed, and a couple of the questions were being put to him. Joe was just back his holidays, but one of the points that was put to him by the journalist was, Joe, did you know that Rami Gershon has actually gone? That's him left, or he's finishing up. Do you know any more about that? I mean, because Joe Ledley said, well, I never heard about that, and he's been a decent player, and I wish him all the best. But sure enough,
yeah, now he's starting.
Rami Gershon's in the starting lineup today, so I don't know what's going on there.
There's so many questions. I'm left confused. I'm left underwhelmed, and the confusing aspect leads me to have concerns. I mean, you can hear it. I'm crazy on my best day, and I have anxiety over this. What's going on? I don't know.
Obviously, the priorities this season were the winning the title and doing well in the Champions League and that type of thing. We're still in there with the cup, and we love Lenny. He's a Celtic man, Neil Lennon, a Celtic man through and through. So we love Lenny, fantastic. But it doesn't mean to say we're not allowed to ask a couple of questions and try and encourage the whole project, as it were, to move forward.
Exactly.
We're looking for, we need some more quality players coming in. We want to see the young players develop. I'd like to see us going. Also, I mean, it's a smaller thing in terms of general, but I'd like to see us pushing really for the next generation series and trying winning that competition. I think it's there. It was Aston Villa and Chelsea this season. If we get young players coming through and they're really top notch, get them into our team, and maybe in time to come sell them on. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's a cup is the next priority.
No question about it. No question about it. I mean, obviously next week is going to be quite special. We're going to get the trophy, and I would hope that the players would be up for that and motivated, and we might see more of the first team players playing in that. Obviously, having the home crowd behind them and the atmosphere and them getting their due plaudits. I would expect Gary Hooper to probably get a run out, probably start the game, and maybe more of the sort of first team players. But the week after, I mean, obviously we're going away to Dundee United, I believe. I would hope that if the number one concern is getting these players some rest before the cup. I would hope that we would maybe have the kids start the game and then have some of those first team regulars mixed in maybe, but then some of those players making second half substitutions just to keep their fitness and their match readiness up in anticipation for that cup final. I hope that there's a method to this madness that Lenny has sort of brewing. So that the players can come in the cup final and be hungry for it, be ready for it. I just have a lot of questions right now, and I'm anxious about it. I mean, we're seeing some very underwhelming performances and efforts being put out, and it's leading me to question whether or not anybody's even enthused about the cup final. Yeah,
it's a bit confusing, isn't it? I mean, one thing that's been hanging over Lenny over the season has been a question mark over some of his substitutions. I mean, that's not just today. There's been a few other games. How do you think we'll get on in the cup final at Hampden?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the most declarative statement I can make out of this. I think that's telling. I have no idea, and it comes down to I don't know what team's going to show up. I don't know if it's going to be the typical sort of Hampden funk that hangs over the side that seems to be lingering amongst the side, not just this week, but certainly last week from what we saw. I don't know. I mean, if the team on paper that was so dynamic throughout the Champions League and throughout much of the SPL, if that team shows up, we're going to be fine. We're going to run roughshod all over Hibs, and we're going to take another Scottish Cup. But I don't know if that team's going to turn up.
I hope it does. I mean, I thought Stokesy did well today with his goal. It was a lovely turn and finish. Beautiful,
Agreed.
you know.
Agreed.
That's definitely something he's got in his locker, and that's one of the things that he doesn't. I don't say he wholly divides the Celtic. I wouldn't say that he wholly divides the Celtic fans, but I say there's a few people get question marks over him. But one of the good things in his locker definitely is how he can actually finish a ball. I mean, you've seen him flick it in the top corner, a lovely header the other week there at Hampden, a beauty, and today was just another Stokesy classic. If we just get Stokesy up and doing that more and more. There was one thing I used to be really disappointed with Stokesy was he was always offside in a game, you know. Today he was offside in the first minute and he was offside in about the 20th minute, but other than that he wasn't too bad and he had scored the goal in between, so you know, I mean, he's coming up and he's only really getting back into his top form, I would say, in the last couple of weeks or so, because he had been out for such a long time. He missed the whole start of the season and all that, so was it a 1 year extension or something?
Yeah, and from my perspective, Tony, and that's a good sort of segue in here. The fact that he got the extension, from my perspective, is he the best finisher in the world? No, of course he's not. But he's not on huge money, and when he comes in, I mean, yes, one of the knocks on him is that sometimes it seems as though his focus leaves him. Some of his finishing isn't quite as oh boy, Tony, let me let you go. I think the connection's really bad.
Yeah, cool, Graham. Catch you later, but take care, man. Yeah, take care, Rev.
Cheers, pal.
Later.
I think that was Tony's end that had a bit of static there. I'm hoping. Right. Tony, thanks so much for calling in. Finishing my thought, Stokesy gets a lot of critique, and rightfully so, for his sort of lack of finishing ability. At times, he can be atrocious, and it looks like his head's someplace else. But when he is focused, when he's on form, he's an exceptional finisher. But for me, I think what he brings more to the game, I mean, he's become a much more intelligent footballer over the course of his time at Celtic. I mean, you saw it in spurts today, where he would drift wide and try and set up Tony Watt on a late run. He'd go down to the touchline, take one touch, and then put it in the path of Tony Watt or Chris Commons, and for whatever reason, their runs weren't timed correctly. You see much more of that, him dropping deep, looking to pick the ball up, and then send the through ball through for, typically it's Gary Hooper, and that's why his partnership with Hooper works so well. That's why Hooper is so much more of a dynamic player with Stokes on the park. I've used the analogy, Stokes makes the bullets for Gary Hooper to fire. Mm-hmm. Because of that creative flair and because of that sort of football IQ, if you will, that Stokesy has, where I think his instincts have become much better and he's become a much smarter player in terms of creating, in terms of distributing and making the players around him better. He does look petulant at times. And yes, he can get caught offside. That's why I think that he doesn't operate quite as well as a lone striker or maybe that forward sort of predatory striker, but as a second striker, as a setup man, if you will, facilitating the link up, I think he's been extraordinary. And for that, and also, taking into account the fact that he's not on huge wages, why wouldn't we have him in the side? Why would we want to sell him on some other place? He's very useful in games such as this.
Same thing with Sammy. I mean, he doesn't make any money.
Oof.
Really?
Easy.
Well, no.
Careful.
But I'm not saying we should play him as a striker or anything, but I mean, he doesn't make a shit ton of money, and sure, he's getting up there in age, compared to everyone else. But I mean, why not hold on to him for a couple more years, because it's not breaking the bank.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that he really loves the club. He wants to be here,
right.
And I mean, for all of his faults, he can come through with some absolutely dazzling performances. I mean, he's really saved. He's saved and won us points on numerous occasions throughout this season, and especially in the Champions League.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
Phone lines are open. You just heard from Tony Cassidy getting in touch with an analysis of some of the young players. That's another thing that's sort of angry. That's leading me to be angry, I guess. At this point, I look forward to these games as an opportunity to see the kids. To a certain extent, we already know what we got with McGeoch. Although I'm confused as to why he's not playing a wider role. I mean, other than the fact that he doesn't have the pace to burn and to get past players, but we see Commons play out wide all the time, and he doesn't have any pace. He's shaped like a perfect square. You could put Commons into a square box standing up. He is a square. SpongeBob Chris Commons. And then you frame it out with that haircut has. So why McGeoch can't go wide, I don't know. But we had absolutely zero width today. And I mean, I was looking forward to seeing a Tadžić, McGregor, James Keatings. I mean, we hear so much about them from, the reserve games and the development team. And we get clips of those games, and sometimes we get the full games on Celtic TV. The thing that I like about a Tadžić, I mean, I think we got a good summary from Tony Cassidy just now. But the thing that I like about a Tadžić, he changes pace and the level of pace. He can go from a sort of running sprint down to a stop and then pick it right back up again at breathtaking variances, which I think is going to be very, very useful when he does get up into the SPL for these sides that are going to pack it into the box, and his ability to make those sort of runs to try and slip past defenders who may just instantaneously go to sleep. That ability to change pace at a moment's notice. James Forrest has it. He uses it to the fullest of his ability, and that's why he's so dangerous. If we had a striker that possessed that same sort of quality, it would be absolutely deadly. And I think that's what Tadžić brings, and why he's so effective in the reserve side. I want to see him in the first team. We're now joined by the Parrot. Parrot hasn't been on in a little while, so we're glad to have him back. Hail, good sir. Good to talk to you, Steve Monahan.
Finian Frogman, free the G. How are we, chaps? All right?
Doing all right now. A bit of an early morning for us over here in the States. Not that I'm going to complain because, as we mentioned before, loads of folks, got into the supporters' buses or took the train and spent a lot of money to get up to Dingwall today. And I think we're let down by not just the team, but the manager himself. I mean, it's one thing for the players to chuck it, but it was clear to me on several different levels that the manager wasn't interested, in anything. I mean, it would be one thing if we could take a context out of the game today. Okay, right. He wanted to play the kids. He wanted to find out how this player is going to do, how that player is going to do. To a certain extent, we got that. We found out a little bit more about Gershon. He hasn't gotten much of a run out. We need to make a decision. Is he going to be a part of our future or is he not? I think we got a clear perspective of that. But what do we learn by having F.A. Ambrose in the middle of the park today? What do we learn by having Chris Commons play yet another game, in that link-up role? I mean, Rogic needs to get a run out. He's going to be a big part of this club's future, in my opinion. He's going to pick up that key role. I'm confused. I'm at a loss. It transcends the lack of effort that we've seen over the previous weeks, although it embodies all of it, and it's numbing. Your thoughts?
I'd just like to say about the fact that we've had, our support today has been fantastic, Graham, as it has been.
No question.
As Rev said earlier on, how they've been. I think it's ironic that every other team in Scotland have reduced their ticket prices down to like a tenner and a fiver. And to be a little bit controversial, imagine Celtic had supplemented the away fans' tickets down to a tenner today. I think it would have been a bit better.
Well, I mean, it certainly would have bolstered the number of people who could attend these away games, and it brings in a wider swath of people. And we did get news recently that the season ticket prices have been reduced considerably, which I think is the right thing to do. I'm not even so sure I want to congratulate the club or thank the club for doing something that they should have done anyway. The people, and let me take this point to another level. You're setting me up perfectly here, Parrot. The people who want to say that Peter Lowell didn't have to reduce the ticket prices don't understand basic economics. Yes, he did. Yes, he did have to reduce the ticket prices because of the trajectory of the reduction in the number of people who are purchasing season season books.
I said on the Homeboys on Monday night, Graham, I mean the £50 child book, that reintroducing that is just a correction on these bad business plans.
Exactly. This let's congratulate him for doing what he had to do, what he should have done, what he needed to do.
I jumped on Celtic Dreams the other night on Friday, and there's like, Pope Paul's got four of his mates who have sat together for 12 years in the area of the stadium that's been like, sort of closed down, and they've been told that they're not able to sit anymore together. Celtic can't get them four seats together.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. This is another issue that I wanted to touch on, is the fact that there are rumors. I don't think this has been substantiated by the club officially, but the word getting around at this point is that Lisbon Lions Upper is being essentially shut down, or is just going to be open for point of whatever they call it, game day ticket sales. So it'd be empty. Removed from season book holders and the people who had season books for decades or for years and years and have sat around the same people for years and years are being moved to other parts of the stadium. What do you make of that? I mean, because you're pretty close to that general area. Are you being asked to move? And what's... I would imagine that the response to this is not going to be positive. Is the club going to make some sort of concessions to try and keep the people who like sitting around the same people? Are they going to try and make some concessions to keep these people together and just maybe put them in a different part of the stadium?
To be honest, Graham, I'll congratulate the club because I've got, old Parrots Perches, I put the pictures up every week. I've got a restricted view seat. And tweeted Celtic as soon as it came out saying, listen, I've got a reduced free ticket. Do I get £100 off? And they say, yeah, of course you do. And I went, yeah, that's great, congratulated them on it, thank them very much. There's lads with like other tickets who are like a parent and child ticket, and the dynamics of it, on the Homeboys Monday night we're talking about it, there's some people who are not getting a discount, and there's some people it's going to be more expensive, but there is a policy where, and it's business management, they're going to be moving people, people's being moved to sit elsewhere in the stadium, and I'm looking at now, my season ticket, if I pick it up again this year, my season ticket is less than £300 now, which is fantastic for 21 games for sitting at a Celtic Park. I can't touch it, I can't fault them for it, but what I'm looking at now is for next season on, there's a very good chance, much depending, that I'm going to be looking at fresh air all the way around to where the away support is.
Yeah, I want to read a quote from, and this is from Bayern's president, Uli Hoeneß. Obviously Bayern is the latest club du jour, taking the mantle, obviously, from Barcelona, the club that everybody wants to emulate. But and I hope that more clubs will emulate Bayern, based on this fact alone, as well as other issues. But here's the quote from Uli Hoeneß. We could charge more than £104, talking about the season book price for a Bayern Munich, who are in the Champions League final and have won Bundesliga once again. We could charge more than £104. Let's say we charge £300. We get $2 million more in income, but what's $2 million to us? In the transfer discussion, you argue about the sum for 5 minutes, but the difference between £104 and £300 is huge for the fan. Let that sink in for just 1 second, what he just said. We do not think the fans are like cows who you milk. Football has to be for everybody. That's the biggest difference between us and England. And by proxy, you can talk about it in the context of Scotland, because that's exactly what we're talking about, the relationship between Celtic and the supporters. They look at the supporters as cows who they can milk.
I know there's a great fear, obviously. Germany's got a population of 80 million and they've got obviously a lot better TV deal, but I know it's sending like shivers down the English Premiership. They're dealing, you look at a team like Wolverhampton Wanderers, who were relegated yesterday, and their chairman, Steve Morgan, they went from the Premiership down to the Championship, and now they match him in the First Division, and this was a man who had the business model a few years ago he was going to buy Liverpool. So you're looking at Celtic, and the amount of people who season ticket holders that can't get a ticket for the final, Graham. I know lads that have been 20 years season ticket holders and basically told, no, you don't qualify for a cup final ticket, and they've been to all the games. It's on a positive note, the stadium's opening tomorrow for the teams having training there, and it's like a holiday here in Scotland. So there's about 15,000 people, hopefully mostly kids, going to see the team do a light training session and stuff. So that's good. So things are getting a little better. But yeah, it'll be interesting, mate. The Sheriff's kicking off at 6 o'clock in Sweden. I don't know if you've got the new app on your iPhone. Every league in the world, and it tells you all the games kicking off. So yeah, Pope Paul's got me on Sheriff Watch still, but the team today, mean, guys like, and it's a shame for Paddy because I mean, obviously he's no Pope Paul's favourite, but I feel sorry for him because he's never really been given an amount of games. But I mean, I've seen certain Celtic media members like that's if 2 weeks in a row now they've tweeted about him coming on with a few minutes to go, and here's the Derry Pelly coming on, or the Derry Welly as we call him. But it's just the team today. I've loved it just to being kids. I mean, we know the league's won. I mean, I was making my dinner there, and I thought about the old days. I mean, football's totally changed now with it's all season tickets because they've got everybody's money up front. The days where clubs depended on week-to-week sales, I mean, if Celtic were playing bad, the old board would go out and sign a player and that would put a few thousand more in the gate. There's the emotional blackmail of the fans who have travelled up there today. And exactly. I mean, I tweeted earlier on, there'll be lads there today who haven't got a ticket for the cup final, I mean, if we could only get 1% of the passion of those guys in that stand today as we have got in the pitch, and the young players, like, I mean, I'd love seeing Tony Watt coming on, you're quite right, boys like Tom Rodrich getting on and that, it's a long way for the boys to go, and there's going to be players going, but I mean, I think the manager will be away as well, Graham. I honestly do, mate. It's not going to be long until the European qualifiers start again.
Wait, you think the manager's going to be away?
I honestly do, mate. Yeah, I mean, they'll parrot confidential thing for the Glasgow taxi drivers. I think it's quite ironic that the season tickets renewal is closes 2 days before the cup final.
So Neil Lennon is not going to be Celtic manager next season.
I think the bold Neil and the Derry Welly will be gone, mate. To be honest, I think they'll be, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, I was out with folk last night who were saying that our chief executive was basically going round Glasgow talking to like top business figures about getting the club sorted out, and obviously, me, I beat the drum for you guys, and we were discussing things, and he says, he's done a great job, and I went, 900 cameras, and you can't buy a Celtic strip in the States, yeah, everything's great. What a 7 years he's had, So, no, I mean, it's been a good season in the sense what we achieved in Europe, but you know what, if you buy a season ticket, Graham, or if you buy a ticket for an away game, there's a certain standard of, I mean, I'd like to think when you put that jersey on, you should be as excited as nervous and be aware of what you've got to do wearing that jersey. If I threw you in the Reva strip just now, you would know what you would be expected of you if you're on the pitch, Well,
Chris Guyava sent out a tweet on Friday, and I want to sort of paraphrase it or echo it. I want to give him credit for this because it sums up exactly how I feel. It's not that we as Celtic supporters expect every game to be a Celtic victory. We just expect them to try their asses off to get a Celtic victory every time. That's all. We don't want to leave the pubs or the ground thinking to ourselves, well, that was a fucking waste of time. I mean, if you go out and you bust a gut and you come up short, that's one thing. If you go out and you play the kids and we're trying to learn and we're experimenting, that's one thing. But when you go out and you have no fucking idea as to the rhyme or reasons or the semblance of what the hell's going on out there, and there's no adjustment being made whatsoever, and it's ramming your head into the wall over and over again, and it's the same damn thing that we've seen over the past several weeks, then it leads to rants like what I'm going off on right now. It's nothing personal against Neil Lennon or any of the players. But don't act surprised when fans are disappointed by it. And you can't blame the breeze or the pitch or, the drive.
Well, I know. I mean, just to line up before I go, can I give a shout out? Obviously, my buses, the Sons of Donegal, I tweet pictures of them. Siobhan and Kevin, they listen to the show, they've just got into Spreaker, etc. They've got a little bulldog called Caesar, so they've got to get the puppy sat now before they go on away games like early this morning. And I made it on for the day we won the league. I made it on the Amsterdam Express from Drumchapel to Celtic Park.
The opium bus.
Oh, I tell you, it's really G. I travelled, mate. I mean, I get pelters off my own bus. It's obviously, it'd be like travelling from... It's like travelling maybe from Brooklyn to Manhattan to go from Manhattan to Brooklyn on a supporters bus. That's the journey I did. so I got on the bus, yeah, but absolute little Paddy Brennan from Belfast and that was over. So yeah, little Polly, it's one of the few bars in Glasgow that's got an instant Mellow Birds machine, G. I was in love, baby, so it was great. And after the game, we sort of went back in the party bus and Big G for Celtic Dreams and Little Bernie who tunes in was on it. So yeah, we had a great night, and then we went down the Gala Gate. So no, it was all good. Obviously there was an Iron Brew Championship celebrated somewhere in the darkest parts of Glasgow yesterday, but I'd just seen some ladies who were about a size 24 in Banana Republic gear wearing Spice Girl Union Jack dresses, so that sort of put a disturbing tint in my evening. But no, that was it, guys. But we're guaranteed to win the double because I'm not going to Hampden, so I didn't go to the semi and we won it. So get your money, Touchwood, on the double being won.
You heard it right here. Put your money in. We're gonna win the double. Parrot, unfortunately you're not going to be there, but we thank you for calling in. Always good crack, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon.
Okay, all the best, guys, and look forward to the rest of the show. Heel.
Cheers, pal.
Later.
The Parrot's always good crack. He always has, the phrases and the banter, and very entertaining. Rev, several things that he touched on there that I just let him go because that's just what you do when you have the Parrot on. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on was, getting back to that quote that I read, and I want to get your thoughts because, we come from a different perspective here in America. Land of the free, capitalism, Wall Street, etc. Yet all of our sports are run like Soviet Russia. I mean, it's all just sort of like this communist collective, socialist at best. But when Honus is talking about not milking the fans, and making it open and wide and available to as many people as possible, that's not just this altruistic sort of mentality or method of thinking. That's a very wise, well thought out business decision, and the reason is you want to have predictable income year after year as a business person, right? Well, I mean, we've seen the opposite of that with Peter Lawwell, as the Parrot was just describing, running all over Glasgow, trying to get the team sorted out, trying to get all these sponsorships. We can't predict, what our revenue is going to be, right? So when you can make it accessible for as many people as possible, you therefore, by proxy, bring in enough people to justify the reduction in ticket prices. You know what I mean? Right. So if you reduce ticket prices by £100, but you get 10,000 more people, you wind up making more money, which is what Peter Lawwell could have done in the first place. But instead, he did the opposite. He raised ticket prices, season book sales went down, and then he blamed the support. Well, now he's bringing them back to a more reasonable level, and people are praising him like he did a magic trick. You got to be shitting me.
Well, you hit the nail on the head 100%. The only thing I might add to it is also, looking at it from, and just throwing, because you made the comparison to stuff over here, with prices rising, and these are the people that you depend on for your income, and if you don't give the people more money in their pocket, and in this case just charging them less for tickets, then you don't have anyone to keep you afloat.
Yeah, exactly. After a certain point, people are just going to give up. People are just going to reach a point where they're sick of being pissed off, and they just stop going. And
if there's the great recession happening and people don't have jobs and people have to start budgeting more, if it's the fact of, I'm going to heat my house, I'm going to feed my family, or put gas in my car, or go to a game. And if they're, if you want to throw it on top of it too, if the team's just chucking the games anyway. And
then the board are dicking people around.
And I might get arrested for just showing up, or might pay this money for season books, and then magically I scan my card and I can't get in through the turnstile for some, unknown reason. What's the point?
You have to do the supporters as many favors as possible, and they will support you in the process. The mindset of giving in order to receive.
I just did the math while the Parrot was talking. He's saying it's about, £300 for 21 games. I mean, granted, he's in a different section. He's not right, behind the goal on the field. That comes out to about $22 a game. And for me going to Red Bulls games, I pay about $17. So that's, that just blew my mind, like, doing the math with that, for basically what I pay, I can go see, Celtic the same way. That's just, and that's still, I'm guessing that still is a little more on the expensive side, considering the whole of Europe.
Well, and Europe's sitting in the posh seats too, with all the mellow birds, and you have like your own personal waitress.
Oh, what, me?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, you're in the comfy seats.
No, I'm not.
No, we know about you.
Oh, wait, what?
We know about you in the Red Bull Arena. It's actually called Rev Bull Arena.
Ooh, I like that.
You're in the posh, the Rod Stewart section, and you're only paying $17 per game.
I wish. No, I'm right behind the goal.
I know. I've seen you. You don't have a shirt on.
Yeah, everyone sees me on TV. I love it. Anyway.
So your boys won yesterday.
Yep.
1-0 against the Columbus Crew.
Yeah.
They need a name change. The Columbus Crew. They should make them like, the FC Buckeyes or something. That's all anybody in Columbus gives a shit about anyway, right? I mean, they have the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's another dumb name for the NHL team there. Get a real name.
It took me, honestly, like 10 years to get what they were talking about until I saw their the Blue Jackets alternate logo, and it's, a Civil War Union hat.
What?
I was like, oh, that's what they're supposed to be?
I had no idea. I thought it was just like a rabid bee or something.
No, that's because they're. I mean, not to get too sidetracked, but their main logo
Why not?
is basically the state flag, just a little more stylized and stuff. But then their alternate logo, it's the blue, Union kepi cap.
Kepi cap.
Kepi cap.
Very nice. They need a name change. So with the Columbus Crew, they should make them like, like Buckeye FC, Atletico Buckeye. I mean, nobody in Columbus gives a shit about anything other than Ohio State football. So they might as well capitalize on it. It's the Buckeye State, right? What's a crew? Columbus Crew. The Crew. Well, they're like, a bunch of pricks rowing in a boat with some guy in a motorboat next to him yelling at him.
It's supposed to be. I mean, the logo. It's three guys in hard hats, and it's supposed to be like the working class thing with
the village people.
If anybody knows anything really about Ohio, and I'm sure all the Cleveland boys can vouch for this, the working class part of Ohio is on the other side of the state, Youngstown and stuff. Columbus isn't really anywhere near that.
Right. Tommy in Glasgow's getting in touch. He's got some friends from an LA establishment, we'll just say, heading to Philly. Tommy, I'm not living in Philly anymore. I'm down in Virginia, but we can sort it out off air. But he's getting in touch as well. He says he's going to take over the Columbus Crew, and then he's going to change the name to the Crackpot Crew, and he's gonna move it to Virginia. So fantastic! I'll be the boss there. You can catch Tommy on Celtic Community Radio. His shows as of late have been just absolutely off the chain. So you can catch him on Spreaker as well. It's unbelievable how his show has evolved. It's like 3 hours of hysterics. You will have your sides will hurt after you listen to the great Tommy. So fantastic stuff. Great hearing from him.
Is Franny Sandoza going to be the first signing for his new team?
I don't know. That would be a good question. I think we need the Feeney and Franny. We need to get him sorted out. Maybe he'd be the first pick in the draft for the Crackpot Crew.
I mean, a lot of people in Virginia aren't that much better than those on the other side of Glasgow, but at least it's warmer.
Interesting. Yes. So, what the hell were we talking about before we got sidetracked? Oh yeah, ticket prices. So, I'm sorry. I'm not going to take this mindset that Peter Lowell is such a great guy for reducing the ticket prices. He had to do this. It was clear that less than 40,000 season books were going to be sold next season unless something drastic, such as reducing the ticket prices, was going to happen. And he had to do it. His hand was forced, and he did it. Fantastic.
Do you think he's also trying to create a, I don't know the economic term, like a false...
a false sign
shortage because if they're supposedly closing down, Lisbon Lions.
Yeah. Reducing.
And now it's like they're lowering prices and making less seats available, so they might try to make a rush. You know what I mean?
Yeah, making the seats more scarce, I guess. And it's a good point, and it's a nice segue into what I wanted to talk about here next. I'm not sure that there is enough demand at this point, considering the economic climate, considering all the extemporaneous issues going on with Scottish football in general. To create a scarcity level, whereas, he would reduce the amount of season books available and therefore naturally drive up the price of that he can charge maybe next season because there are fewer available. I think it's more along the lines of there are a certain number of tickets that I think that's just the ceiling. I mean, maybe, I don't know for 100% certainty what the highest number of season books ever were sold in a season. But I'm willing to guess it's probably along the lines of 50 or maybe 51,000. Mm-hmm. So let's take for a moment. Okay, I'm Peter Lowell, right? Or I'm sort of doing the numbers for this and coming up with different scenarios. So we have a stadium that can hold 60 grand. The max we've ever gotten is 51. We'll just say, for the sake of argument, I could be
for season books. You mean
for season books? I could be completely wrong. So before people start tweeting me saying, "Oh, you're fucking wrong," okay, yeah, I just bear with me, okay? I'm sure I'm wrong, but let's say it's 51. Okay, so the max we've ever sold is 51,000. Lisbon Lions upper, where there are not that many people relatively to the rest of the stadium, and bear with me again. I'm still using hypotheticals. So if you have a season book right now in Lisbon Lion Upper, don't tweet me with fire and hate. But let's just say, okay, Lisbon Lion Upper, there's fewer people who have season books up there. So let's just sort of transport them. Let's send them to other parts of the ground that are also sort of sparsely populated. I guess we'll use that term. And close that area off for only day of the game sales. So if you turn up day of the game, you want a ticket, the only tickets that are going to be available essentially are going to be Lisbon Lion Upper. Now that does a couple of things. By compacting the supporters into more of a condensed area, filling the lower bowl and then filling maybe the north stand upper, you get more of an environment, more of an atmosphere. People have less of a cavernous feel. It looks better on television. It's more conducive for singing and getting arrested, I guess, whatever. That's sort of the mindset behind that. I don't think they're closing it. It's not like RFK where you can't go up there because there's animals and trees growing. And you're going to get tetanus. It's not going to be that sort of situation. You can still sit there, but it's just for the people turning up day of the game who want to buy a ticket. When you and I would go over and we don't have a ticket and we just say, okay, give me a ticket, give me your best ticket. They're going to put us, in Lisbon Lions Upper. So from that end, I think it probably makes sense. I mean, I can see the logic behind, wanting to have a good presentation for television, filling that lower bowl, creating more of a demand to have season tickets, because if you don't have a season ticket, you won't get good seats. That's another, I think that's another inducement of this. People know at this point, well, if I don't get a season ticket, I'll just, turn up day of the game and I could probably get something in the lower bowl. Well, if you all of a sudden fill the lower bowl with season ticket, folks, then people who want to turn up the day of the game can't do that. So then they have to go buy a season book. So there is a bit of inducement there, in terms of scarcity, but I think the scarcity lies with those lower bowl seats for people who want good seats. How that's going to come off, I have no idea, but that's sort of how I can rationalize it. I think it makes sense from that standpoint. Now, do I feel for, am I sympathetic to the people who are having to be moved because of this? Absolutely. It totally has to suck. You get used to sitting around the same people for years and years and years, and now all of a sudden you have to move, and sit next to some other pricks, in some other area that you're not familiar with, you might not like, might not work for you. You may have to pay more. That sucks. But
yeah, it's good on paper. It's a good theory, but like you're saying, that's difficult. to compare it, to Red Bull Arena, when they opened up and,
Nice.
before anyone had tickets, that's what they did. There were certain areas, that were closed off for generally, away support, and, the sections right next to it were day of only. So, that makes sense having it like that. You have the season ticket fan. Well, I mean, season tickets can be pretty much anywhere in the stadium. There's only a couple little sections, but it's not like the whole stadium's filled with season ticket holders. But in this case at Celtic Park, you have fans who they obviously come a lot. They know the songs to sing. Hopefully, by and large, aside from people being moved, know the people around them, get along with the people around them. So on paper, it's a great idea, but for, how to implement it for a stadium that's been around in its current configuration for, over the last decade, that is difficult because, what are you going to tell the people, if they're, I don't know the exact layout where this figures in the park. Obviously, it's the upper deck. But you're going to say, okay, now you have to move to the lower bowl, which I'm sure is, more expensive. How much more expensive are you going to, work with those supporters to try and, cut them a little deal or something like that?
Well, here's another scenario. Let's say you've been sitting in the upper tier of Lisbon Lions or wherever, and you're going to get moved, and they say, okay, you can move down to the lower tier, but you have to pay the same amount. So instead of getting your season book reduced, your season book reduced, you pay the same amount, but you move to a better seat.
I'd be okay with that personally. Just that everything else being equal, I would take that.
Interesting. We'll have to see how this develops. Like I said, there's no official statement from the club, but we're getting, lots of experiences from folks tweeting and on the message boards and et cetera, talking about, some difficulty in adjusting to this and Celtics imposing some things. And I can see the logic and I have a lot of sympathy on both ends. But it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. Another aspect of this that, I was curious about, and I wish I would have asked the Parrot, is we're hearing from a lot of folks talking about they didn't get tickets to the Cup final.
Right.
So Hibs got 20,000 seats. We got 20,000 seats. And then, the SFA and, the establishment jerk-offs got 10,000 seats for Hamden for the Cup final. So how does that work? Are Hibs really going to have 20,000 supporters? Their entire stadium's, 20, 25? Are they going to bring 20,000 people to Glasgow?
Is Hamden really that small? I thought
Yeah, it's only 51.
Really?
At this point, it's only 51. It used to, hold 3 million people.
Yeah.
Back in the day when, you could carry, people on your shoulders and, you could...
Scotland versus England when there's, 240,000 people show up. Yeah, no.
Right.
But, that's shitty too.
Yeah, there's, I believe, 52,000, and they have a running track. Fantastic.
Right.
Fantastic. Whoever made the decision to set up the stadium like that obviously is a brain surgeon.
But
now, now we have a situation where people who, if I said their name, you'd be like, what? Like they didn't get a seat? It's just absolutely atrocious. And I have no idea what the rhyme or reason was that Celtic used in order to, Sean, give us a call. We've just got a text from Sean who's listening in. Skype lines are open, so get in touch. Let us know, whatever's on your mind. We're here for you. Otherwise, I'm just going to ramble with the Rev. I don't know how they picked who was going to get a seat and who isn't. I've heard folks who haven't gone to one away game this entire season have gotten seats at the Cup final, and people who haven't missed a game since 1994, any game, Hamden away at Celtic Park, whatever, have been turned down. So how is that possible?
Is it tracked? Are all of your attendances tracked in that manner? Or is
they
it
have
just
to be
like a lottery or a sort of?
Well, they've used the justification of your away attendance being a prerequisite for Cup tickets in the past. Yeah, they can track it. Peter Lawwell gets on his magic cell phone, calls down to the ticket office and says, who from section 111 is going to the away game in Dundee? and he can get it 10 seconds later. Yes, they track it. They know exactly who attends each game, what their address is, what their national insurance number is, and then they give it to Roddy Hawthorne, and he sifts for the Gingers.
This is something I've never had experience with, so this is a bit difficult for me to really comment on, because I've never had to deal with such an instance. We're used to, we want to see a team play, and it's okay at 12 o'clock on the dot, go to Ticketmaster.com and cross your heart that cross your fingers that you get a ticket.
Yeah, no, it's a completely different sort of mindset. But I mean, imagine the Super Bowl. We'll just use the Super Bowl as an example. Mm-hmm. What the Super Bowl does to regulate this, and much of the sort of American mindset of free market capitalism, is they price the tickets at about $1,000 a piece minimum in order to get in. So that is, through natural selection, is going to sort out who gets a ticket and who isn't. It's not a question of, okay, well, the Cup final seats have been priced as such and they're going to be affordable, but we need to pick and choose who is going to get access to those seats. And it's got to be equal for each team, which, doesn't happen to the same extent with the NFL, with these, or with American sports, with some of these neutral site clashes, if you will. So, Hibs get 20,000 seats and we get 20,000 seats. How does that work? That straight off the bat, that doesn't make any sense to me. But how then does Celtic make the decision? Based on who gets seats and who doesn't.
Right.
And I'm not going to assume or allege anything because I don't know. But it does open the door for suspicions, allegations, etc. to come out about favoritism or however they do it.
Yeah, that's tricky. That's a dirty area to go.
Yep. So, yeah, I guess Sean is going to call. He sent us an instant message and then nothing. But I don't know what to make of it. Hopefully, nobody breaks any seats or lights any flares. Right, Rev?
We'll be banned from heaven.
Yes, we'll be banned from Earth. Celtic Football Club is banned from Earth. What'd you make of that? Okay, Monday, we had the under-17s game or the under-20s game at Firhill, which is a neutral site where Partick Thistle plays. And there were broken seats, allegedly coming from both ends of the park, not just Celtic, but also the Rangers end. But, this is another example of our own support loving. I mean, just can't wait to stick the boot in, to our own supporters. Oh, my God, there's flares. Oh, my God, there was about a dozen broken seats. And you had people tweeting, like, nonstop, like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh, this is a black mark against the support. Make sense of this for me. And give us your perspective. I mean, you're a scary man. Let's not kid ourselves. You have piercings. You have the tattoos in your mouth. You're a bald man. So you tend to be, intimidating to some folks, in spite of the fact that you're very cuddly, I will say.
Thank you.
But you come from, and myself to a certain extent, although I don't participate, but I like to watch, this culture in this country where this isn't an issue. I mean, the broken seats maybe to a certain extent, but, you have pyrotechnics, with your ultras group. And the smoke and everything else, and nobody's suffocating, nobody's melting or having like sulfur burns or anything else. But when it happens with our support, not just it doesn't just open up the opportunity for our own supporters to stick the boot in, but it lasts for days and days and days. I mean, it was like 2 days later, and we're still getting blogs and tweets about we're our own worst enemies. Because of like a dozen of our own supporters. I mean, please, there's absolutely zero perspective in any of this.
I guess because there was such, a large purge of, the hooliganism in the 80s and in Scotland and England and stuff, that it's still kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Stigmatized.
Yes, it's still stigmatized. So I guess it's that. But when you look at the rest of the world, does it to some extent, and there's no problems. All right, I'm sure there's problems, but I mean, by and large, it's totally fine and accepted. And look at it, here in America, we are the land of litigation, that you spill coffee on yourself and you get $1 million, to sue McDonald's. So, and I was surprised.
It's the land of opportunity.
Yeah. I was surprised when we first started doing it. It's like, what, really? We can do this? And
as long as it's controlled. I mean, mind you, obviously, some of our listeners may have been in attendance at the Philadelphia Union game when Celtic came to town and flares were lit off and the cops came in, and it turned into, this sort of Gestapo mentality of the overzealous police state. Don't want to get too far into that, but when you set up an environment where it is controlled, it is safe, it is sort of overseen, it's not. It isn't the end of the world, and it isn't stigmatized or stigmified or whatever the word is, like it is in Scotland.
Right.
A seat broke. A little plastic seat broke. A dozen of them. I mean, are we going to have like a UEFA suspension? I mean, there's 11 million supporters across the entire world, and almost every one of them has been, just an absolute delight for me to meet and spend time with. So a dozen 15-year-olds now all of a sudden have the entire country of Scotland in an uproar where, we'll never be able to have alcohol being served at the games again, and our reputation is completely ruined. Rev, I think you touched on a very interesting point that I wasn't present to, but I think there's a lot to it, and that is the stigma that's attached with, that so-called hooliganism, or not even just so-called, but there was an issue, in the 80s and 90s, like you mentioned, going through Thatcher's Britain with hooliganism and, trying to stamp that out, and then having any sort of resurgence of that, even resembling that, I think conjures up an overreaction like we're seeing now. I think you really touched on something with that.
Right. I mean, obviously the fact of, roaming groups of, people and, whole platoons, like army-sized platoons of people, on game day roaming the streets looking for each other and smashing everything to use as missiles to, against each other. Obviously that's not good. But shit happens. And I guess that's more of like the American mentality where, we don't have large, pitched street battles between fans. But I mean, you go to, a Giants-Eagles game, you're going to have fans that are, even if just one-off things, two guys get into a fist fight or, something happens in a parking lot. It's not these mass things, but, shit happens. And that's what the security is there for, to, break that up, separate, keep bystanders safe, yada, yada, yada. And that's it, and call it a day. There's no need to blow it up and on the internet and make this whole big contrived thing about it. Like, it happens, whether people are drunk or sober or whatever, somebody's going to be really happy because their team lost. Somebody's going to be really pissed. Really sad that their team lost. Somebody's going to be really happy their team won. And it's just going to happen. So you take the steps to minimize the effect of that and call it a day.
Very well said, Rev. We're now joined all the way from the suburbs. Oh, are we joined? I think we might have lost him. I thought we were joined by Sean, but we lost him. Sad days. Sean, if you're listening, try us back. I think he got in touch saying his Skype is not working. That's unfortunate.
To go into a little more about, like players and stuff, like, to the best of my knowledge, pretty much every MLS team uses smoke. And I think everybody uses flares at some point too. Yes. It's not in the stands, when everyone's compact or anything like that. We do it outside. There's this bridge that we walk over There were efforts to try to get us to do it on this one side street where there's nothing, and they were going to have little buckets full of sand for us to extinguish them in. That didn't pan out, but we still do it literally in the streets. They put cones in the way so cars don't come on our side of the street, and that's it. In the stadium, same thing. We use in the home end. There's one smoke bomb in front of each of the sections. We haven't used it so far yet this year, but we did, last year and everything, and I expect us to again this year. But when goals happen, when we're on the when we're scoring right in front of our section, because we don't do it when our own goalkeeper is right in front of us,
and it doesn't happen much.
Ooh. But we set off the smoke bombs for goals. Usually do it for kickoff. So and
we take our tops off.
We do that. But some people complain a little bit, but I'm a smoker. It kind of sucks when you get a mouthful of that. Yeah, but it's not the end of the world. And if there's someone who has asthma and can't, be involved with that, I'm sorry, that sucks. And I really do feel for you, but it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's just that. Look, we can debate the merits of having the pyrotechnics and the smoke and everything in the stadiums and the breaking of the seats and all that. I'm not a huge fan of the breaking of the seats. It's kind of stupid.
Who would want to break their own seats in their own stadium too? Like,
well, it was Fir Hills. It's Partick Thistle Stadium. But let's keep it. The thing that I'm most sort of concerned about with this is, number one, I think that there's this impression like Twitter, the Celtics supporters on Twitter represent all Celtics supporters, which is absolute nonsense. I mean, first off, I would estimate, and I've some statistics to back this up, but I would estimate that max 20% of Celtics supporters worldwide are on Twitter, that use Twitter. I think that's aggressive. I think it's probably less than that. So this idea that everybody overreacting on Twitter means that the Celtics supporters fractured. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Look at how many supporters or how many followers Celtic have on Twitter. It's like 180,000. Right. And many of those aren't even Celtic supporters. They're just supporters of whoever who follow the club's Twitter feed. So, this idea that Twitter is the be-all and end-all of the Celtic supporters is absolute nonsense. Myself and maybe two other people in our CSC are on Twitter. That's it.
It's actually hailhailmedia.com.
What?
The end-all be-all for Celtic on the internet.
Ah, look at you. Look at you.
Throwing a little plug in there.
Look at you. So, this sort of like, this response and then this sort of malaise about, oh my God, the Celtics support is falling apart. No, it's not. It's really not. Twitter has just become this mishmash of neurosis. It really has. And I've engrossed myself into the middle of it because I'm the nuttiest one of all of you. No one's crazier than me.
Have you get IFC?
What? Where are you going with this?
The IFC, do you get it?
The channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch Mark Maron's show.
Oh, yeah.
His episode on Friday was about some guy on Twitter blasting him.
Yeah.
He tracked him down overnight and confronted him in person. The guy's playing like Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And the kid's just like, this is embarrassing. And he's like, you should be embarrassed. And it's like, no, you should be for tracking me down. Like, you're crazy.
Yes.
So that's like the perfect, example, analogy for Twitter.
Yes, we are all crazy on Twitter. But, this overreaction and then, people write blogs and, we should be ashamed of ourselves. It was 12 people who broke seats at Fir Hill. 12. There are estimated 10 million Celtic supporters worldwide. 12 people at a youth game. Really? Let off flares, smoke bombs, and broke seats. Really?
This was
really.
There was more outrage about this than there was about that Egyptian riot, El Ali, last year.
Well,
like 75 people died. Like, you think this was that's what happened by the outrage that, it created.
Yeah, I don't get it. And listen, I'm sure I'm going to get a response like, "You're just apologetic. You're just an enabler. You're endorsing what happened." No, I'm not. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying calm down.
Context.
Exactly. Calm yourselves, okay? Yeah, a bunch of stupid kids did stupid stuff. Here's something. Kids do stupid shit. They do. And it's not a black mark against the Celtic Football Club. And it's no need for you personally to be embarrassed. It's really not. And you know what? If it's like, oh, well, now the Daily Record has more ammunition. So what? If they didn't have that, they'd make something up, just like they have for decades. Who cares? Stop reading it. Like, that's another thing. I'm unfollowing people who just continue to tweet about what Super Scoreboard says. I'm sorry. It's not personal, but I can't deal with the constant complaints from people talking about, oh, this one's on Super Scoreboard and he said this. He's out of his mind. I don't care. I really don't. And if I unfollow you, it's not personal. I don't want to listen to that. So I'm going to unfollow you, just like you should probably turn that off if you don't want to hear it. There's a lesson in that.
That makes perfect sense. I don't listen to...
And then people want to lecture me about, you're censoring people because you blocked me. You're censoring because you should know. You're American. You know about the First Amendment. No, I'm not censoring anybody. I'm not... Okay, if I block you on Twitter, I'm not restricting your access to Twitter. I'm restricting your access to me. It's the same thing as you talking shit to me in a bar and me saying, oh, okay, and then leaving. No, you can't leave. That's First Amendment. You're censoring me by leaving. No, you're just a moron. Sorry, Rev.
No, I forgot what I was gonna say. Damn it.
Good.
Thanks.
No, it's not good. It'll come back to you. So you guys are top of the MLS Eastern Conference?
Technically. I mean, we've got we played two or three more games than most other teams. So
yeah, you've played 11 games and everybody else has played 9.
Yeah.
Weird. Well, we'll see how it pans out. But, it's a lot better than it looked like after the first couple of games.
New manager, had to gel with the teams and, with the players.
Feeling his way through it.
It could be worse. We could be, DC that's had their manager for going on his 3rd season and can't get out of the basement.
They can't get a shot on goal.
Yeah.
Interesting comments from the Parrot there, talking about Neil Lennon leaving after the season.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be like, what? That's preposterous. You're crazy. But, I mean...
Really? I will.
I don't... I mean, who the hell knows, but...
It is true. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I just can't say it.
At least one more year, you would think.
Where's he going to go? I mean, unless it's going to be a situation where he says, you know what, I've had enough of this. I need a rest. I need to, spend time with my family, et cetera, et cetera. That, you couldn't blame him for. But if it's going to be, the type of thing where he doesn't get his contract renewed for, some sort of specific reason. I mean, unless, we get gubbed in the Cup final.
No, I can't see that happening. Either, us getting gubbed or him, being refused a new contract. I mean, unless he does do something like, pull up Pep Guardiola and, take a year off and...
He's going to come stay with me.
Oh.
And then we're both going to tweet troll whoever the next manager is. Me and Lenny sitting on the couch.
Looks like I'd be moving to Virginia then.
It's true. My wife.
I mean, if it does, thanks for the memories, I guess, or something. But that I would be a little disappointed. I still want to see one more year out of him. at the very least.
I can't see it. I mean, number one, I'm not sure what team would come in for him that would be a bigger job or better job than Celtic, and I'm just not sure that he'd get a look.
Right.
But you never know.
I mean, hell, if Bob Bradley can end up as the Egyptian national team coach,
yeah, I don't think the Egyptian national team would be up there with the Celtic job. But
no, but I'm talking about like other teams that would go for him.
If Paolo Di Canio can wind up at Sunderland,
yeah.
Might be a better example. Look up Paolo Di Canio takes off goalkeeper. That's the best interview ever. He pulled the goalkeeper. I guess when he was the Swindon manager, he pulls the goalkeeper after 20 minutes. The guy let in 2 goals. So the goalkeeper loses it, like just loses his mind, kicks bottles around, and Palos is yelling at him. And then they interview him after the game, and it's the greatest thing ever. I mean, where Di Canio just goes off. He's like, in that the whole like Italian affect. Everything starts off with well, pulling the goalkeeper, it is not a big thing. I mean, what does he check? No, it's a Wes. I think the guy's name is Wes. No, it's a Wes, 20-year-old.
Thanks, Sven.
He's 20-year-old. Before he met me, he never played a professional football, and he needs to apologize. And the players, they need to believe, come from the heart. I mean, are we mad? I mean, if he was upset, we were fuming. I mean, are we mad? 20-year-old Wes. Yes, Paolo. Yes, you are mad. So to that end, I mean, I anything's possible, but I can't see Neil Lennon leaving in the offseason. However, I would like to see a replacement for Alan Thompson. I think that we've identified this, over this the run-in to this season, and I have my concerns about the Cup final. There was several tweets sent out today that the bookmakers have now taken it upon themselves to say that, essentially it's not a foregone conclusion that Celtic's going to win.
I don't think so. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion at all.
I don't either. And it's nervous. I mean, it's nerve-wracking. I mean, granted, it's never a foregone conclusion, but I haven't been this. My confidence in us going into a huge game and needing a result hasn't been this low since before the Ibrox game at New Year's 2 years ago, where Sammy scored the 2 goals. So maybe there's a silver lining in all this. I don't know. But it's not even, we were going up against a much stronger team in that Hun side than we are against this Hibs team. But my confidence in obtaining the result, I'm very uncertain. I mean, when we were talking to Tony earlier about what I have no idea.
Right. Especially because I believe the next hearing about the suspension infraction last week is like 3 days or 2 days before the final.
Yeah, he got another hearing now because he was on the touchline last week or something. Originally, right. I thought that was because he ran out of the tunnel. After we won the league, but apparently it was last week against Motherwell. I don't know how they expect him to get out of the stadium then. If he's up in the stands. No, it was from Motherwell last week, where he ran down.
I thought because he was in the tunnel, before the 15 minutes were up. And
it wasn't from that. It was from Firhill, where he was in the stands, and then he had to go down into the tunnel after the game. He wasn't allowed in the tunnel for 15 minutes after the game. So I guess he had to jetpack himself out of there like Evel Knievel or something in order to, or he's just got to sit in the stands by himself for 15 minutes before he can leave. Which
Jesus
is
Christ.
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. So
that's even worse than what I thought it was.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So 3 days before the Cup final, he has to go into the hearing for that, which I'm not even so sure that he can appeal, but it's clear that the SFA want to make sure that he can't go down onto the pitch and potentially celebrate winning the Scottish Cup with the team either.
Yeah, because they're gonna make some special fucking ruling that it's a cup game, so it's not 15 minutes.
Right.
It's an hour now.
Right.
Good luck.
Exactly. So
and by the way, if you don't move your car within 45 minutes, it gets towed.
Right. Right.
Jesus Christ. Well, that's what I was gonna say. As far as confidence with this game, if that's what happens and it's Miyagi, in charge of the team, then going by what we've seen the last couple of weeks, that doesn't make me happy at all.
I just got a tweet from Jerry D on Twitter. I'm gonna retweet it. It's he says, "Right, G-Man, get to the nitty gritty. We really want to know when you're posting the Naked Island pictures." We know you went. Oh God! Now joining us, hopefully we get him from the suburbs of Philly. It is Sean Brennan. Sean, you there? Well. Hello. All right, we don't have Sean. Okay, having some difficulty there. Yeah, I didn't go to Naked Island. I don't know why anybody would ever think that I would go to Naked Island, but he's obviously referring to my trip last week. My wife and I went to Jamaica for the weekend, which was an absolutely phenomenal time. The weather was amazing. I watched the game last weekend. It was 6:30 local time, and I needed to have my head examined for doing that. In the computer lab of this resort, it was an all-inclusive. I might as well give them a punt. It was Couples Tower Island in Ocho Rios, which is 8 rivers in Spanish, Rev. So I'm not sure. I didn't count how many rivers they have, but one of the rivers, Dunn's River, has this waterfall that you can climb up, so we did that. We took a catamaran ride that was rum punch infused. I think we have some pictures posted up to Facebook here, so if you're following me on Facebook, you probably can have a look at them. But all-inclusive sort of deal, so a lot of rum. The food was excellent. We had a fantastic time there. And then they have this island just off the coast. I mean, maybe 200 yards from the beach. That is I think they refer to it as au natural, so everybody has to be naked on it. And of course I called it Naked Island, but I'm sure they had a name for it. But they have a castle over there, and a pool.
Naked Castle.
Yeah, Naked Castle that apparently has very steep stairs, so you definitely want to go up one at a time. Yeah, so no Naked Island for me. I didn't make it over there. I don't like getting naked in the shower, but needs.
You're never nude?
Needs must. Well, sometimes. Not necessarily comfortable with my skinny, flabby body.
You always have cut off jean shorts underneath everything you wear.
Ugh. I just look at myself in the mirror like, ugh. God, pasty mess.
Did you put on sunscreen?
I did. SPF 50.
Damn.
I have issues with the sun, Rev. I had some issues. I had some cancerous cells in my forehead.
Okay.
Yeah, basal cell carcinoma. So I really, I don't fuck with the sun anymore. I fought the sun and the sun won, and it's just something that you don't really mess around with. So ever since, I'd rather be pasty and cancer free. That's just me. When
I went to Bahamas last year, I wore SPF nothing, and I said, "Fuck you, son."
It's a risky game, my friend.
I won that battle. Maybe not the war, but I won that battle.
Interesting stuff. Well, that's another solid 2 hours, I think, Rev. We're pretty close to it, so I think we'll wrap up. I'm going to go outside and plant marigolds.
Ooh.
Don't knock it. It's therapeutic. I enjoy it. I enjoy spending time outdoors planting things, and I put together a green shop stool yesterday for my workshop.
Look at you, Mr. Woodworker.
I work with wood.
Wood and wood accessories?
Yes. So, out of shit, we made a shit sandwich today, Rev.
Yeah. What else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do? Well, I think we'll wrap it up. As usual, taking us out will be Shane McGowan and the Pogues. That Little Thousands are sailing for. Little Thousands are sailing for you. WNBC. 1:48 p.m. Saturday. Sunday. Oh my God, I can't even keep track of what that is. Wow, 60 degrees here in lovely Washington D.C. Yeah,
Way to go.
I don't know what to make. Next week we'll get the trophy. Hopefully, more first-team players show up, seem interested. It's going to be a packed house, so that'll be fun to watch. And we'll be with you after that, as we always are. So, Rev, thank you for joining me, as always. And thank you to the listener for tuning in. And hopefully you enjoy this. And hopefully you can make some sense of what's going on right now. And once you do, please let me know. Because I haven't got any clue. But I guess we'll just say, hell, keep the faith. We'll talk to you soon.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know 15 was not to be on a cabin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And in Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favorite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to